President Joe Biden had this to say about Bidenomics this week.
Well, I believe that every American willing to work hard should be able to get a job no matter where they are, in the heartland, in small towns, in every part of this country, to raise their kids on a good paycheck and keep their roots where they grew up. That's Bidenomics. Bidenomics is about building an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down.
And here's Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' take on Bidenomics.
Bidenomics is you pay more for the necessities of life. And he has this grand global warming vision with all the Green New Deal. You will pay more for everyday energy, transportation, and groceries. We've seen it happen in other parts of the world. That's what he wants in store for the average American.
He's listening a lot to AOC.
Roughly 1 in 3 Americans approve of Biden's handling of the economy, according to a new poll from the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Research Affairs. So, Jessica, even setting aside the specifics of what the Bidenomics plan entails, I was kind of surprised from a political standpoint that Biden wants to make a big show of talking about the economy when so many Americans think that it's performing very poorly and that they don't trust Biden to handle it. Heading into a presidential election, that seems like a huge error in judgment to draw further attention to one of the biggest issues on Americans' radar that they don't rate you well on.
Yeah, I think we need more from President Biden for him to really be able to say that he's growing the economy from the middle out and the bottom up. I haven't seen a lot of policies passed by Joe Biden that would directly impact working people more than, the Inflation Reduction Act, which has been successful in reducing inflation in the country, but it hasn't been a policy that improves the labor conditions of people who have to get up every day and work in America in a world where his labor secretary is doing next to nothing about union busting in the country, when we're not seeing funding the NLRB be a major priority. Ron DeSantis cites the Green New Deal. We haven't seen Biden take an approach that is progressive when it comes to public spending in a meaningful way. We really need to address the problem of climate change in the proportion it exists. President Biden is not a supporter of the Green New Deal. He didn't run on the Green New Deal. His policies are nowhere close to what the Green New Deal suggests we should have happen in this country. And moreover, he's left Jerome Powell in his seat and has allowed our monetary and fiscal system to be run in a manner that allows working people to be unemployed so that there's more competition in the labor market and wages and benefits are driven down. That's not necessary to rein inflation in, as Jerome Powell would argue it is. And so he's not been a president that is committed to Bidenomics. However, the fact that he's pushed in the direction of having to say these things to be a popular candidate, I think shows the actual power of the left in the United States right now and how fed up working people are with how our economy's been run by Democrat and Republican administrations.
I think it's probably more to the working class people's benefit that he hasn't pursued the Green New Deal more aggressively, because energy prices are already up almost 40% during his administration. Granted, some of this is due to the war in Ukraine and Russia, but a huge part of it is also that the Biden administration has sought to shut down coal-powered plants and also has reduced oil and gas drilling in the United States. And we don't have energy independence like we did under the previous administration. A lot of renewable energy right now is prohibitively expensive for working class people, even with the tax credits and rebates that the Biden administration is offering. It also seems to be a common theme among Biden that he likes to take credit for things that he didn't do in regards to the economy. He's touted, for example, the so-called record job growth under his admin, but this was a result of the pandemic ending, not any specific policy that he brought forward as president. It's just the fact that the economy was no longer shut down and people were allowed to go back to work. And meanwhile, real wages continue to decline for Americans. Inflation remains at a historic high, even though it started to come down a little bit. So this entire package just seems really ill-advised and misleading to the American people who feel the real economic hurt in their homes right now.
Yeah, when I would point to the jobs growth, I would say economic stimulus that happened under the Biden administration, and thanks to his leadership is something that led to a lot of jobs growth. Do I think that that makes him a remarkable president? No, I think economic stimulus in the time of economic downturn should just be the basic playbook for anyone who is the head of state. I don't think that should be something that's celebrated, but I do think that that action had a role in the jobs growth we saw following the pandemic. When you inject dollars into the economy and allow real productive resources to be put to use, it's going to increase productive capacity. It's going to increase our productivity as a country. It's going to grow the labor market as well. It's going to provide jobs for people. Now, when we talk about the Green New Deal and energy prices being high, we've seen the 5 biggest Western oil companies profit more than they ever have. So those increasing prices that we're paying at the pump and increased energy costs is a direct result of corporate greed of the largest oil companies. What the Green New Deal would do would be to prioritize investing dollars into making renewable energy affordable and building renewable energy infrastructure. So we have an alternative to the incredibly destructive and apparently destructive for people's bank accounts and their pockets and their monthly budgets, not just destructive to the planet, but we can't be dependent on these oil companies for energy anymore. And so the Green New Deal is a policy that allows us to invest in what big banks have refused to. Right now, a lot of folks are afraid of communists, afraid of a planned economy. But what we have right now is an economy run by big banks. Banks make the decision as to who gets investments, where capital is given. Then the people who run those businesses with dollars given to them by the banks in the form of loans, they then make the decision about where our real productive capacity goes, where our labor power goes, and what we produce as a country. And that's been fossil fuels because that is the most profitable. We need a different incentive structure if we're actually going to transition to renewable energy. And that means having well-paid public jobs and public programs, because we can't rely on the market to address this problem. It's failed to do so. And so the Green New Deal addresses that gap and would actually reduce energy prices for working people and provide good paying jobs for those who are forced into unemployment and to have lower wages, thanks to people like Jerome Powell and that classic way of thinking about how the economy needs to work.
Fossil fuels are not just popular because they make companies money. They're popular because they're cheap to produce, and they also are very reliable. Even with infrastructure created for renewable energy, the American climate is not in the state that's necessary in order for renewable energy to be consistent enough and reliable enough for people across the globe. For example, there's been a lot of talk in the Green New Deal specifically about replacing coal plants in West Virginia with wind and solar energy. And the climate in West Virginia for a vast majority of the year is simply not capable of supporting itself with just those types of energy sources. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but we'll be back with more Rising after this.